it's a symbol to a lot of people. Like, I think it signifies hope to people that like, hey, it's possible for women to achieve this status. And that's what I noticed when I got it. Like, I didn't think about it, but like, that was pretty much what my DMs were, where people were like, oh my God, thank you for like setting an example. You're so inspirational. You've made me want to wake up early and work out every day and like be disciplined and like do my job.
What would happen if we just told the truth?
Welcome to Truth Works, where we dig into the nitty-gritty of leadership and work.
And what needs to change. I'm Jessica Neal.
And I'm Patty McCord.
Our journey together started in HR, but trust us, it's evolved into something wild, honest, and well, a bit rebellious.
So throw out the handbook. We're here to redefine rules to work for us, not against us.
Let's dive into another episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Truth Works. I'm your host, Jessica Neal, and today I have a really fun guest. I'm so excited to introduce Lucy. Lucy is, you probably all know of her. She is an entrepreneur, an investor, and an unconventional builder in modern tech. She founded Scale AI at 21. I mean, who does that? Nobody. And then she, I think, was the first woman to become a billionaire and self-made at that. And so she's scaling companies. She's at another company that she's founded. She's an amazing woman, an amazing entrepreneur, and I'm just so excited to have her on the show. Welcome, Lucy. Thank you for coming and joining.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes. So let's talk. Okay. Because I don't know. I was actually reading something before the show, and it's going to sound maybe a little gross, but this woman founder was like, there's a tampon tax. And I was like, I hadn't thought about it like that, but I guess that's kind of true. But here you are, 21, founding a company, becoming a billionaire. And it seems like you haven't, maybe I'm guessing you've experienced boundaries, but it hasn't held you back. So let's talk about your story. Like, how did this all happen?
Yeah, definitely. Ended up getting better once I recognized the fact that people are born with advantages and disadvantages in life. And my disadvantage happened to be, being a woman in tech, which is honestly a disadvantage compared to other people's disadvantages in life, right? So after that, I just accepted like certain places. So like to receive funding, to be able to hire, etc., to be able to get my next job. I think once I recognized that, I no longer complained. I just did it. As for how it all happened, are we talking about like how scale happened or how I got into tech? Because those are two different things.
I mean, I think I read somewhere that you started building like companies when you were young. Like you started doing things like as a kid. So maybe this was just like in your DNA. Maybe it started very early. I don't know. Tell us, go back in time. Tell us.
Let's just get on your plan.
Yeah.
I would say that I have Asian immigrant parents, and I think that was a lot of the reason of like who I am today. My parents didn't let me buy nice things. So I figured out that I needed clothes I wanted or toys I wanted, etc. So I would say that probably started back in kindergarten where I was figuring out I could trade up Pokemon cards and then sell Pokemon cards for cash. And then I started playing Neopets back in second grade because I wasn't allowed to have a pet. And then I wanted rarer pets than ones that I was getting. So I started digging into online forums and found there's an entire etc. That's when I started learning how to make bots to be able to get the pets and the Neopoints, etc. And I started reselling them on these gaming forums and training them up as well. Then went on to just learn how to make tons of different websites to make money, from online streaming sites to arcade game websites. Ended up making my own virtual pet site, and then started creating internet marketing tools because internet marketing was, I think, the hot thing back then, and people were buying Twitter bots, etc., to be able to up their followers. So I think it was slightly in my DNA and slightly to learn technology.
Yeah, that's amazing. My husband is Korean, and his parents immigrated here, and he always says he didn't get anything either, but he did not do what you did, which would have been amazing. So I think like let's go back to so you're doing this as a kid. You kind of have this entrepreneur spirit because you want the skateboard or you want, whatever type of clothes you wanted. But then it kind of turned into like real, like a real like you're doing real stuff in real companies. Like and you were very young, like for Scale AI at 21. Like can you take us through like how that happened? Because I'm sure it wasn't as easy as it all looks.
Yeah. So I would say, even though I started young, I think very young, I learned I had adrenaline for having users on my product. And it could be any product. It could be, like a WordPress website, or it could be an arcade games website or my virtual pet site. But I got excited when people were using that. And then I discovered hackathons in college. Yeah. So I realized that growing up, when I was building these websites, it could be any website, but I was really excited when people were on the website and using my product. So I realized pretty early on, I started learning that there was more to the world than internet marketing tools. So you could create these startups that like millions, billions of people could use. And I think that concept got me very, very excited. So when the opportunity to drop out of college through the Teal Fellowship came along, I realized that was my best chance at building a startup. So I ended up taking it and then took a non-traditional path where I ended up working at Quora and Snap. But at Snap, I got the itch to just build something on my own again. Like it was great building products that all these people were using, but it's a little bit different when you're building 0 to 1, right? And at this point, I had it already, so that was like nothing new. And so I basically it was like, I want to go join Y Combinator and build a company. And the first app I had built was actually ClassPass for clubbing, which pivoted into this healthcare care app called Ava, which then pivoted into Scale. So Scale really happened by accident,
Right.
which is I think a lot of companies actually happen by accident where you're like fixing a problem that you personally have. And then you realize like the question of whether it's a startup or a lifestyle business is just how large is the TAM?
Right. Right. And so when did you know that, through those sort of iterations of the company, when did you know that it was like a real company with a big TAM? Like when did you have that aha moment?
So I'm going to be completely honest. My first aha moment on like we should build Scale is that the tagline was API for humans, which I believe to be very controversial because it's dehumanizing humans. So I knew it would go viral. That being said, we weren't completely sure what it said. We should work on another idea. And that idea just had more complications because I built this Pokemon Go map that went viral. It seemed like a Pokemon Go map. They could build this into something bigger. But I'd actually done that with someone that was not my like YC co-founder. So there are just complications on like how we would split equity, etc. And it only was when we received like a Series A term sheet on the company, YC was like, oh, actually, you should go work on that. And even then, like we kind of let investors think about it themselves. And I guess they thought that like we never really knew that it would be a huge company, I think, until we realized the self-driving car market.
Right. And talking about fundraising, and you mentioned, everything's a little harder being a woman in tech, which is just true. So what was the fundraising process like for you? And what's your advice to women who are thinking about, being a founder and doing something? How should they think about doing it?
Yeah, so I give a very specific advice when it comes to this. And I think my specific advice is go work at a large company, something that is like a company that's reputable but is known to have good engineers. So it's called like Palantir, right? For anywhere between 1 to 2 years. And then go get some startup experience for 1 to 2 years at a hyper create this resume that is so quantitatively like undeniable that you are going to be a good founder. Like you're smart, you can match up these men. That investors can't make excuses in their head on like why not to fund you. And I think that's kind of the problem that women face when they are like fundraising, where everyone wants to invest in female founders. I think that's undeniable. Like everybody wants to be able to say like, I invest in female founders. And VCs want to feel like good people, but I think there's a subconscious thing going on. And that subconsciousness makes it so that women have higher standards to live up to get that funding. As for me, I took my own advice there. And, I worked at Quora, I worked at Snap. And like after Snap, and I was the only woman on the product team then, I think I became like very fundable. So, they just looked at my resume and they're like, okay, she's one. Like, at Snap. Like she went to Carnegie Mellon. She's like, which is, you know, the best CS school. Studied CS and HCI. Like we have to fund her. So the fundraising wasn't hard for me, but I also recognize that like when I talked to investors before that resume.
Yeah, like you had to, which it kind of sucks, but you have to kind of have more credibility than the men because the men just walk in with automatic credibility.
Exactly.
They can just graduate from Carnegie Mellon and get funding, whereas you have to like,
that's the difference.
yeah, you have to go build a resume. Kind of sad, but great advice.
It's advice where like it's so undeniable that like you're worth putting a bet on. And I think that once you have that resume, it actually becomes easier to get funding as a female founder versus like a male with that resume because everyone's.
No, yeah, I mean, you definitely don't. But to your point, you know, there is a subconscious thing, you know, and as women, it is a disadvantage. But what I love about what you're saying is that you knew it and you just went for it anyways, right? And like maybe you had to do a couple things that our male counterparts don't have to do, but you wanted it and you did it and you didn't let it hold you back. So that's pretty cool. So, you know, early on, I guess at Scale AI, like, you know, you sort of are building a company. Like what were the lessons that you really learned in how to build a great company, how to lead, how to show up, not just as this like visionary entrepreneur who's, you know, going out there and creating a product?
So, I would say that very early on, I realized that your employees are only going to work as hard as you do. And to be a good leader, you need to be able to do the job yourself to be able to determine whether someone else is doing a good job or not. So in the very beginning, like I always came into the office earlier than everyone else. I made sure to leave later than everyone else so that my employees became encouraged, like, you know, come in early and leave later because you really do set an example. I really didn't want to create a culture where no task was too small for a singular person. So we all labeled data. Like during the pilots, like we would go into a war room and we would all be labeling data. And it was really like we had a goal as a team and everyone was willing to do whatever it took to reach that goal, which was like close a contract at like those in the early days, right?
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, exactly. I think that by like my philosophy was always lead by example and understanding that like your team is only going to be as strong as you are as a leader. And I just took that philosophy very personally in the beginning. Like quite literally in the beginning, like before we even hired people, I was labeling data. So I think it was like always in me to just do whatever was needed to like make the company go further.
Yeah. I think, did you ever like have sort of some aha moments around the talent you were bringing into the company and who you were surrounding yourself by? Like, is there any learnings there as you were building and growing?
I'd say my main aha moments were probably we liked hiring for people that were competitive, whether it was competitive sports, competitive math, etc. Because I think if you were doing competitions and winning those competitions, and it really didn't matter what the competitions were, like it could be anything, that showed that you were willing to work really hard. Because to win national competitions in really anything, whether it's gymnastics, it's like math, it's chess, it takes a special type of person and a special type of discipline. So that's what we looked for because they could translate that into company building.
Yeah, you know, I think the types of folks that you're describing they're not only competitive, but there's probably a self-awareness about them that other people don't have. And then there's just like a huge appetite to get better and learn.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because, you know, if you want to be the best at math, you have to, you know, practice the one thing that's really hard for you over and over again until you know, get it and you want to learn that. We thought about it kind of similarly at Netflix too. You know, so so you start Scale and then where does it, how big does it get? Where does it kind of stand when you leave? Like you go from 0 to what?
Yeah, I mean, we were able to be pretty efficient as a small team, but I would say we probably got to around the Series B stage when there were just roadmap differences that I had with my co-founder. And I wasn't super excited, I'd say, about the product. I felt like my learning was stagnating because at the end of the day, I was like, we were a data labeling product and I was in charge of the operations and the product side of the labeling. And scaling that became very like routine, I'd say. Like we figured out an automated way to do it. I figured out quality control, etc. And I had always been consumer focused, everything before scale, and I wanted to get back to that. So I ended up deciding to leave. And after that, I thought I was ready to jump in. So I honestly, like literally the next day, my co-founder at that point in time quit Stripe and joined me. But unfortunately for him, I think I wanted a little break. Like a month in, I helped him get his job back at Stripe and went on my little break and then went into venture because I didn't like, I guess like for me, I was like, I wanted to optimize for learning, like I've said before, and I had done everything operationally, but I've never done venture. And it was something that actually our Series A investor told me like, hey, we think you'd be good at venture. So like, here's some money and we just want you to invest and you'll earn a percentage. So I was like, great. And I ended up creating a good enough portfolio. I raised my own fund and then did that for the next few years up until I got the itch to build something again. Because it is a little different. It's like breadth versus depth. And after having so much breadth, I started craving depth again. And during the venture fund, I had founded this program called HF0 where you live with founders. So I was living with these founders and helping them build products side by side. And I think that like being around so much ambitious energy drove me insane. Like I was like, I need to build something.
Well, because you have that energy. Yes,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Yeah. And so now that brings us to passes, right? And
Yes.
tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we're building infrastructure to help creators monetize their brand. We have a few thousand creators that have made over 9 figures. So that's been exciting. In the last, it's been under 3 years. We're 3 years soon. So yeah, I would say super excited. And now we're exploring how we can help everyone make money outside of creators. So experimenting with a few different like products in the B2B space, which we're hoping to launch next quarter.
Cool. Well,
Yeah.
everybody wants to make money. I have a 6-year-old and I was picking him up the other day at school and he was like, Mom, this girl in school, she's like, he goes, she said her dad just throws his money in a pit and he doesn't care about money. And then he goes, but Mom, like, why wouldn't you care about money? Money's great. Money is great, honey, but I'm trying to teach him it's not everything, right? And oh, by the way, you don't have any money. I have money. But
That's a really important lesson to teach. Like, I don't want spoiled children. So my children are going to be fine economy. They're just going to be normal.
Yeah, right. And so that's what I'm trying to do. But like, speaking of money and making people money, like how should, if I'm a creator or I'm someone who wants to start making money on my own, how can passes help me?
I would say a few ways. So like we really help your fans become super fans. And it really depends on, I would say, what your audience is, right? So like if you are a live streamer, then you might make more money off of our live stream product and our merchandise product where we help you create merchandise. And we actually have designers in-house that will design for you. And it's print on demand. So you don't actually have to put upfront money to be able to test the merchandise line. I would say that if you are an expert at something, I've had people, for example, used to ask to pay me like $100 a minute to chat. And we have like pay per minute calls. So if you're like our spirituality creators actually use this a lot too. So like, yeah, I guess expert in something, whether it's like advice giving or spirituality, etc. You can charge people by the minute to get your expert advice on something. So we created these like different tool sets. And I say we have more tools than anyone else to help like creators of all different like niches be able to monetize.
Yeah. Well, I've had to become a creator with the podcast. I never thought I would be a creator. And most of my content is created on LinkedIn. And I'm lucky that I have a good team of people that help me do it and think about it. But it is really challenging.
Yeah, it is. We actually have a podcast studio in the office. So we have creators that come in and film podcasts and we'll actually help them edit, etc. And the deal really is just like, okay, we obviously want these podcasts to be on Spotify, YouTube, etc. because distribution matters. But for your super fans, like have an extra episode per week that's just for passes or have an extra 15, 20 minutes per episode that only lives on passes. And that's how they monetize with their super fans. But I do think it's hard. I think nowadays, especially, people are getting podcast distribution through TikTok Reels and Clipping, etc. Or TikToks and Reels, yeah. So
yeah,
it like takes, I think, a team that understands viral marketing as well.
Yeah, no, it's so, so, so true because there are many podcasts one can listen to, right? And
Yep.
how do you find the one for you? Thank you, listeners, by the way. We love you for listening. So we appreciate it. Okay, Lucy, so what's different for you this time around? So this is, founded scale. Now your passes. Like, what are you doing differently? What are you doing the same?
Yeah, I would say for the same, it's being very close to the customers. We're a very customer first company. So that means that like if something happens at 3 a.m. on a Saturday where like, for example, our payment system is bugging out, like we're going to be there to fix it. I am online constantly 24/7, no matter what I'm doing to like help with creator complaints. And this was very much so the same at scale where we were very customers first because they're the like lifeline of your business. I would say what I'm doing differently is I've been honestly back and forth on this. I think I've been more open to senior management. That being said, like I do expect like all senior management to still be doing IC work. And I think that that was something that we didn't really do at scale per se. Like we were a bunch of like 20-year-olds running around, which worked really well. I think there's like pros and cons to it, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Where there might be
What's
like,
making you feel like you need more senior people this time around? What?
I think that with scale, like I said, we were a bunch of 20-year-olds running around and it did create a few culture issues due to that. So I recognize like the need for seniority. That being said, and see like experimenting with senior managers at passes, one thing that I have now like just literally just changed was that all senior managers need to be ICs still because
Yeah.
I think that we had a problem with senior managers not recognizing who was a good employee versus a bad employee because they didn't do their job themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something where like I would tell them they were like their direct reports were not good employees because I had done that job and they would just not understand what I was saying. And I really do. The only way you understand is like if you're doing the job yourself, you recognize like they're not like responding to tickets fast enough or they're not coding fast enough or like at a high
Right.
enough quality. Like you really have to be able to do the job and you need to be actively doing the job to understand whether that employee is doing a good job.
Yeah, no, I think it's true. And I think the best operators that reach leadership levels, whether it's director, or higher, they always stay close to the work themselves, right? I did that myself. I was always hands on because it's true. You want to know, for me, I wanted to know how the work was evolving, how the work was changing, what was challenging, what wasn't. And I couldn't really guide people if I didn't know it myself. Right. So I appreciate that. But, I think I've seen a lot of companies resist hiring the senior talent. And I, I don't think about it as like you need an adult in a room. Right. Like, an adult to me, it doesn't, you can be more of an adult at 20 than you are at 40. It's not a number thing. But there is a bit of like that expertise that you need to bring into the company that like propels you to that next thing, right? And some of those companies that have done that and brought in that talent have changed things from like they are now scaling. They are now, in another ethos than that they were in a year ago, But had they not brought in those people, they might not have been.
Yep, I agree. I think it's a very delicate balance because like to counter that, I would say that sometimes they come in with such a strict mindset on like a framework on this is the only way it can be done. And the way startups are built are being able to break out of that framework and finding innovative solutions to things.
Yeah, no, I was talking to another founder last week about this same thing because her worry is that, she's going to bring in people that are just going to apply a playbook and they're not going to be creative and innovative. And I'm like, you can find people that can be great operators who are still strategic. But it's true. You have to be, it is a delicate balance. And a lot of those people don't exist because they do just apply the playbook. And that is not what you want. But in my mind, that's not a great executive. A great
I agree.
executive
I think it's just like you have to be very careful that they can do both because I think that like, experience matters because you see what's worked, what hasn't worked, but also you need someone that isn't just set on one solution. So that's something that like I'm personally navigating through right now where I'm like, okay, like how do I find these more senior managers that are willing to do the IC work, willing to get their hands dirty, that aren't bringing a playbook and don't have like a sturdy framework and refuse to think outside the box. Because we
Yeah.
are a startup and like we breathe by thinking outside the box.
Well, call me. I'll help you. Okay.
Amazing.
Okay. So I want to get back to you for a second because I think your story is just so fascinating. And I don't know how I would feel becoming, the first self-made female billionaire, whether like that would be so much pressure, right, on me. Cause I don't know. How does it make you feel? Like, is it something you just don't think about and you're like, whatever, who cares? Or is it something that you feel a lot of pressure around?
So just to correct it, it was I think the youngest one, but I'm not the
Okay.
first. So the
Okay.
youngest self.
Great.
I didn't really feel anything because honestly, the title is something that like it lasts for like 4 months. Then someone else is gonna get it, and I think like from positive standpoint, like someone else actually just got it. The Kalshi founder, who's just amazing.
Yeah, I read that. Yeah.
Incredible product, incredible person, like big fan. And I think it's just like I don't think about it, but I also recognize like, okay, this is like it's a symbol to a lot of people. Like I think it signifies hope to people that like, hey, it's possible for women to achieve this status. And that's what I noticed when I got it. Like I didn't think about it, but like that was pretty much what my DMs were, where people were like, oh my God, thank you for like setting an example. You're so inspirational. You've made me want to wake up early and work out every day and like be disciplined and like do my job. And I think it's just important to continue to relay that message of like, hey, this is possible. But also like when you hit that, like it is kind of my job to reinvest in the ecosystem as well, which means like supporting female founders, whether it's through giving advice or whether it's through funding, etc. So that's kind of how I view it. But like in terms of my life, like responsibility, I feel nothing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I always felt like at Netflix, for a while, I was the only woman, in the C-suite, and that felt hard. And I've, when I wasn't doing as good of a job, or I wasn't as like, showing up as the woman I wanted to be all the time, I did feel like I was letting people down. And I don't know. I also feel like these are things that our male counterparts never even think about.
Definitely not.
Not thinking about how they're letting anybody down. So how, did you have somebody for you that like was that mentor, like that female mentor for you that you're trying to be for other founders? Did you have someone like that?
Say she was a founder, but I really looked up to Sarah Guo when I was younger. She just represented this, complete badass to me. She worked at Greylock and then like moved on. Now she has her own venture fund, and her resume was just like, I'm a person that's really, really smart. I had actually reached out to her for a bunch of advice, like while I was at Snapchat and debating whether to leave for YC, etc. We actually had like lived in her house for a little bit while building out our YC projects. So I would say like younger me, probably her.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think everybody has that. So, I think that that's great. And if you just sort of you liked her and reached out to her, right? And sort
She
of
reached out to me, honestly.
Did she? Okay.
Yeah, I would say like because I was at Snap on the product team, every VC was trying to be best friends with me, which was amazing.
Well, yeah, and you were the only woman for a while. Is that So
yeah.
What was that like?
It was an adjustment for sure. I think I really enjoyed working at Snap because Evan's just such a product genius. It was so different than any of my other experiences, and it really drove a lot about like how I think about company building, both in like what I want to do and what I don't want to do. But a lot of it, I would say, like majority leaned to like I want to be like innovative like Evan. I think it was an adjustment just because it was like 10 guys, like 9 guys and me.
Yeah.
So that was definitely an adjustment, but some people were really nice. Like I quite literally like hired some of them to do like contract work at Passes because they have golden handcuffs. But
right, yeah.
I'm close to some of them. I'm not so close to others.
It happens, yeah. But, sometimes being the only it's daunting, right? And
yeah, it's daunting.
Yeah.
It took me a little bit to like learn to speak up. Like I was too scared to like voice my opinion before. And I had noticed a dynamic where like sometimes I'd voice my opinion and like, a guy would just take the exact same thing and repeat it. I was just like, what just happened there? But again, I just accepted like, hey, like this is just a normal thing that will happen in my life.
No, I know. How did somebody explain it to me? They said something, It's not. Anyways, it's sheep eating. Like
Mhm.
they repeat what you said. I'm like, because I mean, I experienced the same thing. And, you would say something and then literally 5 minutes later, the guy would say the exact same thing you said. But then everybody be like, oh, wow, yeah, that's so great. Let's do that. And you're like, I just said that. But I like what, I think like you and I, we didn't give up. We didn't let that deter us. We kept doing it. And yes, it was maybe something that my male counterparts didn't have to navigate, but I don't know. I felt privileged to be able to navigate it, you know?
Yeah, look at
I
you
don't
now.
know. I know. Well, look at you. Okay. I want to wrap this up because we're running out of time, but I want to do two things. So if I'm a founder, what's your advice to me? And if I'm a just female in working, what's your advice to me?
I think if you're a founder, just ask for things, like ask everyone. I think people are too scared to ask, whether it's for advice, it's for funding. And the worst thing that happens is that you get a no, right? But people are just so afraid of rejection or society that like that is extremely daunting to them. And I think that like the TLDR of this, just be shameless. Like the worst that's going to happen is a no. No one's going to think about that question you even asked. Like don't feel bad about getting that no. And that's so hard. Like, when you're pitching your idea and like you get 100 no's, like that's going to feel bad, right? But
Yeah.
just try not to feel bad, because if one person says yes, then those 100 no's don't matter. And I think that that's just such an important thing. Like I had asked for help. I had asked for funding. I'd asked for advice. And that was like how I got to where I am right now. Even nowadays, like I ask for artist passes to things and I just get them. Like I ask for free things. And the worst thing that happens is like, they're going to be like, no, the list is full. Right. But
Right.
like so many people are just too embarrassed to like ask for those things that they seem to feel crazy.
Yeah.
And then for the female founders out there, I think my advice is just like what I've said before, which is like just recognize everyone's born with advantages and disadvantages. And hopefully over time, this will shift and that we will no longer have to work harder to get into the same places that men are in. But at the moment, we just have to work harder, and complaining just doesn't get you anywhere, which sucks. But it just like I think the only like it just be solution oriented, right? Like what can I do to get to where I need to be? What can I do to fix things versus focusing on the negatives, like, oh, this bad thing happened to me and this is unfair. Because if you're just focusing on like life being unfair, you're going to be miserable and you're never going to like get that energy and that motivation to reach to what's possible in life.
And just be shameless.
And be shameless. Yes, be so shameless.
I love it. I love it. I do think you have to have a little bit of that. And you can't, rejection's hard, but to your point, like the one that says yes is the one that says yes, and that's all that matters. So, oh my gosh. Well, thank you for that. That's so amazing and helpful. We're going to roll into career confessions if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So I'll set it up with a little bit of context and then I'll ask the question. And so here's the context. Being a woman in tech means people often expect you to prove yourself twice, even when the track record speaks for itself. How do you stay grounded and confident when navigating a space that wasn't built with you in mind?
Honestly, I think by default, I tell myself I have to be arrogant and confident, which I think every founder needs to tell themselves this, because if you think you're going to build a unicorn company, you're out of your mind, right? Like the chances you're going to be able to build a unicorn company are like close to zero for anyone.
Yeah.
So I would say I do not really stay grounded. Like I just try to believe in an impossible. And I really just tell myself like manifestation is real. If I believe it and I like want it to come enough in the world, it will. And I'm just going to continue working hard until people see that. And I do think luck is created in that sense, where I think that like enough like hard work, luck comes with enough hard work as well. But yeah, like no person navigating the world is like, you can't be sane. Like you have to believe in the impossible to be arrogant.
Yeah, no. And I don't know. I think about too, like being a woman, like, yes, maybe you have to prove yourself twice, but so what? Prove yourself twice. Do it 3 times. Make them see that you know what the fuck you're doing and that you're a force to be reckoned with.
Exactly.
And, who cares if they say you're bossy? Who cares if they say you're too loud? That's
Like
okay.
everyone are always like there will always be people that don't like you, but I think at the end of the day, like you know who you are, your close friends, your family know who you are. And when people are upset or you have haters, they're spending their time thinking about you and you're not spending a single second thinking about them and you don't even know them, right? So
Right.
I think it's just like a sign of success, really. Like hate only really comes with jealousy. So just don't let people get in the way.
Yeah, no. Let it roll off your back and keep
Exactly.
moving. Keep moving. Well, Lucy, thank you so much. This was so amazing. I am so happy you decided to come on the show and share all of your knowledge and wisdom. And we're just grateful to have had you. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I hope you come back.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm gonna connect with you on LinkedIn, but you've got an amazing story and I'm just thrilled to be connected. And so I hope we get to stay in touch.
Thanks for listening to TruthWorks.